It is one of the great achievements of human civilization that somebody once looked at a bucket of aging milk and thought, let's see what we can make with this. And thank goodness they did. Because cheese is not merely food. Cheese is a way of preserving a season, a landscape, and sometimes an entire culture. A wheel of cheese is edible geography. It contains the grass eaten by animals, the microbes living in a valley, the traditions of farmers, and occasionally the stubbornness of a village that has been making the same thing for 800 years and sees no reason to stop now. So, how is cheese actually made? At its heart, cheese making is astonishingly simple. You begin with milk. Cow's milk, sheep's milk, goat's milk, buffalo milk. Different animals create different flavors and textures. A cow grazing on the lush meadows of Somerset produces milk unlike a sheep wandering the rocky hills of southern France. The journey of cheese begins long before the milk enters a dairy. The first step is to encourage the milk to become slightly acidic. Cheesemakers add starter cultures, carefully selected bacteria that convert milk sugars into lactic acid. Before modern science, these microbes arrived naturally from wooden vats, caves, cloths, and the surrounding environment. Medieval cheesemakers did not know the word bacteria, but they knew perfectly well that some dairies produced better cheese than others. Then comes the magic trick. Rennet. Traditionally extracted from the stomachs of young calves, though now often produced through microbial or vegetarian methods, rennet contains enzymes that cause milk proteins to coagulate. Within minutes, the liquid milk transforms. Suddenly there are curds and whey. If that phrase sounds familiar, it is because generations of nursery rhymes have immortalized one of the most important moments in food history. The curds are the solid portion. The whey is the liquid. From this point onward, nearly every cheese on earth is simply a different answer to a single question: what shall we do with the curds? Take fresh cheeses. Suppose you drain the curds gently and eat them almost immediately. You get cheeses such as ricotta from Italy, creamy chèvre from France, or cottage cheese. These are youthful cheeses. Bright, fresh, and often slightly tangy. But perhaps you wish to create something firmer. Then you cut the curds into small pieces. Smaller pieces release more moisture. Less moisture means a harder cheese. This is one of the fundamental secrets of cheese making. Large curds retain water and produce softer cheeses. Tiny curds produce drier, harder cheeses. Imagine the difference between a sponge soaked with water and one that has been squeezed almost dry. The next stage is pressing. Place curds into molds and apply pressure. Water continues to leave. The cheese becomes denser. This is how we begin to arrive at cheeses like cheddar. And here we arrive in Somerset, England. The village of Cheddar, nestled among limestone hills and caves, gave its name to perhaps the world's most famous cheese. Traditional cheddar undergoes a remarkable process called cheddaring, in which slabs of curd are stacked, turned, and pressed repeatedly. It sounds like a medieval form of exercise. But the process creates the firm texture and rich flavor that define the cheese. Interestingly, those caves around Cheddar Gorge provided ideal conditions for maturation. Nature herself supplied the refrigeration. Now let us cross the channel. France approaches cheese somewhat differently. The English often became masters of sturdy, practical cheeses that traveled well and survived long winters. The French frequently explored the possibilities of molds, rinds, caves, and local microbes with the enthusiasm of experimental artists. Consider Brie. Originating in the region east of Paris, Brie begins much like many cheeses. But during aging, a white mold grows across the surface, creating that snowy rind. The mold slowly breaks down proteins from the outside inward, producing the luxurious creamy interior. Brie is essentially a cheese that ripens in reverse. Then there is Camembert from Normandy. Similar in appearance, yet distinct in flavor, reflecting the milk, climate, and traditions of its home. And then we encounter Roquefort. Now things become truly fascinating. Roquefort comes from the limestone caves of Roquefort-sur-Solzhenn in southern France. This is a blue cheese. Blue cheeses receive cultures of Penicillium mold. After the cheese forms, cheesemakers pierce it with needles. This introduces oxygen. The mold grows through the interior, creating blue-green veins. What appears at first glance to be a cheese gone terribly wrong is in fact a masterpiece of microbiological engineering. The flavor becomes sharp, complex, and unforgettable. The cave system itself helps create the conditions required for maturation. Again, geography becomes flavor. Move east to Switzerland and you find another approach entirely. Emmental and Gruyère are cooked curd cheeses. The curds are heated during production, encouraging different textures and flavors. In Emmental, specific bacteria produce carbon dioxide as the cheese matures. The gas creates those famous holes. Contrary to popular belief, the holes are not put there for cartoon mice. They are evidence of bacterial activity. The cheese is effectively breathing. Travel south to Italy and you discover Parmigiano Reggiano. Produced in the provinces around Parma and Reggio Emilia, it requires enormous wheels, careful aging, and extraordinary patience. Some wheels mature for more than 3 years. During this time, moisture slowly disappears while flavors concentrate. A good Parmigiano is less a cheese than a geological event. Each crystal that crunches between your teeth represents years of chemical transformation. Then there is mozzarella. Originally associated with water buffalo milk in southern Italy, mozzarella is made using a technique called pasta filata. The curd is heated and stretched repeatedly, like a cheesemaker performing edible blacksmithing. This stretching creates the familiar elastic texture and wonderful melt that has launched a billion pizzas. And so we arrive at one of the great truths about cheese. Every variety is really a controlled manipulation of 4 things: moisture, microbes, salt, time. Salt protects the cheese and shapes flavor. Microbes create complexity. Moisture determines texture. Time performs miracles. A fresh goat cheese may take days. A mature Comté from the French Jura Mountains may require years. Yet both begin with milk. This explains why cheese is so endlessly fascinating. The differences between a crumbly English Stilton, a nutty Alpine Gruyère, a creamy Brie, a powerful Roquefort, a mature Cheddar, and a magnificent Parmigiano Reggiano are not the result of completely different recipes. They are variations on a theme. Like symphonies written from the same musical notes. The next time you stand in front of a cheese counter, you are not merely looking at food. You are looking at centuries of accumulated knowledge. You are looking at valleys, mountains, caves, pastures, weather systems, bacterial cultures, and human ingenuity. You are looking at the answer to a question humanity has been asking for thousands of years: what is the most delicious thing we can possibly do with milk?